Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now August 3rd of 2023, and given that we are inching closer toward the Ahsoka Tano series on August 23rd, that's going to really kind of prove to the general public whether or not this is going to be a worthy show by Disney, as the executives are really placing all bets on this show being a home run for Disney Plus Star Wars, and we already know that a lot of people are very divided over what they saw in the final trailer. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into what's going on here with Lucasfilm. Now, we already know that there's a lot of things on the horizon that's being done to Lucasfilm by Bob Iger and the Disney board, such as, of course, the Lucasfilm Purge, where over the period of 2 whole years, you're going to see firings of many different employees, people getting replaced, and the restructuring of all the departments over at that company. And on top of the list, though, we also have a lot of things going downhill for Star Wars. A lot of things are being pulled back, canceled, having budgeting limitations because of what happened with Dial of Destiny, losing hundreds of millions of dollars, on top of what happened with Solo. Combining all of that, they lost a lot of money for Lucasfilm, and they have to really put a cap on everything. So, what is interesting here about Bob Iger is exactly what he had to say in response to all of those rumors that have been circulating and all of that talk circulating about Disney considering selling Lucasfilm, selling Star Wars, and eventually tossing it in the near future. So, let's discuss. Now, with Bob Iger endlessly lying to the general public and to the media about his confidence with Disney and their business models, Iger recently responded to the question and rumors of selling Lucasfilm as Disney begins to deal with a major downshift. Iger delivered the following to the world. Well, look, I would be lying if we weren't dealing with a bit of a slope for 2023, but as far as Marvel, we are very optimistic for next year, and moving onwards, as for Lucasfilm, we hold no intentions or see any kind of selling point in the near future, let alone the distant future. There is no reason for anyone to believe that Star Wars is hitting a decline of interest and or customer fatigue. We are reworking our slates for both film and television for separate reasons, and moving from there. We have not held any conversations on selling the company or the Star Wars brand to somebody else or a different entity, and don't intend to hold those conversations anytime soon. Regardless of our miscalculation with box office projections for our 5th Indiana Jones film, it hasn't really harmed Lucasfilm to the point of convincing myself and others here at Disney to consider selling it or Star Wars to another entity at all. Now guys, let me pause here quick. Now, the problem with this is I think that Bob Iger is lying on some levels about this. Clearly, and I mean clearly, there is customer fatigue. I mean, there is no doubt about this. People, and everyone that I know personally, and I know a lot of people that are mega Star Wars fans, some of which are casuals, some of which really just kind of know nothing about the franchise even, and have even walked away from Disney Plus. You know, gave up their subscription, wanted nothing to do with Mando 3, with the Boba Fett series, with Kenobi. A lot of them, in fact, stopped after The Force Awakens, believe it or not. But there's been a lot of downshifts happening with Disney. And this is by far one of them. Star Wars is the leading cause. What they did to the sequel trilogy is almost irreplaceable at this point. You know, I don't even know if they could really fully recover from that. It really would take a lot of consistency, success points by people like Tony Gilroy, Jon Favreau, etc., etc., and they would need more experienced creators on board, because let's face it, there's also a lot of skeptics out there of people that aren't really all that convinced about Favreau and Filoni's work. So I think that to even top the list here, they would have to get more experienced writers on board to convince those type of skeptics out there that they are doing something different. But moving onwards here, Bob Iger does put out another point there, whether or not he's lying is a big mystery, that there have been zero conversations about a selling point in the future for Lucasfilm and or the Star Wars brand. Now, look, they have a full slate still intact for the movies, and I believe that's going to eventually collapse, I have no reason to believe that we're going to see this Rey movie. I really don't see this happening. Between the strikes and between the difficulties that they're having with the script still to this day by Stephen Knight, he hasn't even finished the ending yet. Daisy Ridley is getting into a bit of a squabble with them based on what she's being paid and how much screen time she's getting. We'll talk about that more next week as we're garnering more details about that. But what's interesting about this is Bob Iger making it clear that there is no conversations about any of this happening, that there's no conversations about selling Lucasfilm / Star Wars, and that there is no customer fatigue, when in reality, yes, there is. Now, moving onwards here, he goes on to elaborate. We are very passionate about our projects moving forward as we deal with the strikes that have been very persistent, but it is allowing us to evolve and rethink our strategy in the process. This is similar to what Jon Favreau said a couple of days ago, by the way. We have some great things on the horizon to announce that we believe are going to excite our customers even further. Regardless of what happened with Dial of Destiny and our planned closure of Galactic Starcruiser by this September, we hold full confidence still that Lucasfilm will have a wonderful and successful 2024 year and beyond. We will be making some of those planned projects public during some of our upcoming earnings calls in the coming months that should give everyone a more vivid view of our film and television slate for Disney Plus and for returning to Star Wars to theaters again, as we deal with the ongoing delays and conflicts from the strikes. So, again, I think that Bob Iger's getting ahead of himself again here, similar to what he did with the Rian Johnson trilogy ahead of the release of The Last Jedi. Do you guys remember that earnings call back in November of 2017? It was a very big day, where Bob Iger's like, oh, and we are approving moving ahead with a Rian Johnson trilogy, and that really kind of boosted the confidence among fans that, well, if they gave Rian a trilogy, The Last Jedi must be that great. And sometimes it makes you wonder, do they intentionally announce said projects to attract customers to either A, go to these movies, or to gain more confidence in upcoming films, or to sign up for Disney Plus? It's very possible. There's been a lot of conversations out there among skeptics on whether or not that Star Wars slate was announced 2+ years ago to drag people in for Disney Plus Star Wars, and to kind of just slowly cancel said projects after they got people to subscribe. So that's a possibility. There's been a lot of cancellations, a lot of show cancellations, movie cancellations, and that's just the beginning of it all. So I think that Bob Iger, he's lying to an extent. Whether or not they have had those conversations, that's something that is going to be interesting as it unfolds, as Star Wars potentially just keeps getting worse and worse. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.